Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Kane. Kane Roselle here from Hourglass Life Coaching. So yesterday was the autumnal equinox, and so I thought it would be really cool this morning to talk to you a little bit about the light and the dark from what I would consider a spiritual standpoint. A lot of people have asked over the years, like, if God is so good, why would he create disease, famine, all these kinds of things? But as it would seem, these are the very things that we need as a catalyst for growth. We want to find out what could we be doing better to have more love in our life. What can we do to connect better with people? When everything is going well, you just want to bask in the moment and enjoy it for everything that it is. So when I think about the equinox, and of course we're moving into the dark part of the year now, this is a time for reflection. This is a time for us to think about what we would like to do for change. It's not going to be for quite a while that those of us that celebrate the holiday season are going to be crazy busy with that. In fact, you have well over a month, almost 2 months, to really think about that. So what is it that you would like to see for change in your life? When you look at the dark areas of your life, what would you like to do to shine a light to make them not so dark anymore? What are the changes? What are the opportunities that you could be creating in your life right now? What I've learned to do is really bless the darkness that's in my life, because I know that without it, I would be almost blind. As a matter of fact, that reminds me of something that somebody just told me. I think it was from a book. Maybe it was a movie they watched. But it was something like, if there was only darkness, we'd never be able to see. But if there was only light, it would be so blinding that we wouldn't be able to see. But it's actually living in this kind of contrast between the two, where it's more of a spectrum. You could look at it rather than a contrast. It's living in this spectrum of dark and light that we live the best, or at least we seem to be made that way, since we have eyes to see, and it's reactive to light. So blessing the darkness in my life has led me to so much of the best growth that I've ever had. And the thing about the growth is it's not like a painful, crappy thing. It has those elements if you think about it, right? But when I think of times in my life where everything was going pretty well, a lot of my life just kind of flew by, to be honest. Like, I was really, I guess you could say, in the moment, but those moments flew by, and I was just enjoying every minute, and that was very, very important to me. But I also look and see how I would have just kept everything the same. And the problem with sameness is not that things being the same on its own is such a big deal, but when things don't change, nothing changes. And if you look all around you to nature, things are always growing and things are always changing. It is the way of things. And so what that leads me to believe is, if you're a person that tries to keep everything the same all the time and not invite change into your life, then you're going to have a very miserable life. And the reason for that is because everything is changing around you, and yet you're this one person that's trying to keep everything the same. And so perhaps another way to look at the darkness is to look at it as change. Your ability to adapt with change. Perhaps that's really what makes us successful, is our ability to adapt with change. To look at our present situation and say, no, that's not working. I need to change it. And then to have the wherewithal to sit down and make decisions and actually change it, right? To create a new vision for what you'd like to do and actually change it. And the light, I guess you would say in this example, would be the sameness. Things staying the same. Now, why is that? Why are those two forces important? They have a push-pull in your life. You see, your body needs time, and that includes your brain, by the way. Your mind needs time for rest and relaxation so that it can rebuild itself. Because all this time when you're doing deep work and you're changing things and you're trying to make your life better, you're investing a lot of energy into that. Other things that are in your world you may not be thinking about, so you actually need some space to be able to invite all of that into your life. And so with that, there's this balance, this push and pull, maybe you could look at it. It's kind of like going to the gym, I guess, in this way. If a person only went to the gym all the time and they never gave their body a chance to rebuild, the body would break down, right? On the other hand, if a person never goes to the gym and they're only in rest and relaxation, they would get lazy and complacent. The body wouldn't be strong. It wouldn't be utilizing its metabolism very well. This kind of thing. And what's interesting, of course, is the mind and the body are so very linked that complacency in the body can very well lead to complacency in the mind, and we definitely can see why that works in reverse. So this push-pull kind of a thing, you could look at this spectrum of one side being sameness, everything staying the same, your homeostasis, if you will, your status quo. And on the other side of it, you can look at change, because the world is always changing around us, and we have to be able to change with it. And there are many, many, many ways in truth to apply this light-dark scenario. Many people like the analogy of good versus evil. I don't tend to use it only because I think that when we start labeling things as good or not good, that leads to dangerous things. We start labeling things that maybe we shouldn't be labeling, or maybe we start experiencing a lack of compassion towards other people, places, and things because we've labeled them in such a way. But instead of just looking at the world that way, we could look at it in terms of what serves me the best. When I look at difficult times, for example, in my past, I'm aware that they have an effect on me. But I also know that effect only has power if I give it power. Which a lot of people like to say. They're like, it's kind of like a platitude, right? Like, oh, it only has power if you give it power. But what does that actually mean, to give something power? It means to give it your attention, your energy. And the reason for that, the reason why I define it this way, is because what we focus on grows, right? Tony Robbins said that where focus goes, energy flows, right? Where focus goes, energy flows. Or energy flows where the focus goes. I think that might be it. Energy flows where the focus goes. Hey, this is Coffee with Kane, right? Like, we're waking up here. We're waking up together. But in all seriousness, you can ever only focus on one thing at a time. Right now, if you're watching this video, you're either really focusing on what I'm saying and you're internalizing it and you're really engulfed in what I'm saying, or you're thinking about something else. But either way, you're only focusing on one thing. If you look at the screen in front of you and you focus on it and try to focus on what's behind it at the same time, you'll find you can't do it. And this matters in the grand scheme of things because whatever you focus on, you become emotional about. And this is something a lot of people haven't realized yet. I often, with my clients, give this trivial example of dancing strawberries. Allow yourself just for a moment to picture dancing strawberries in your head. On the one hand, you may think, what a stupid example. This is ridiculous. Why dancing strawberries? Why not something else? And you find yourself getting frustrated or irritated. Well, guess what? That's emotional about dancing strawberries and your relationship to it. On the other hand, you could start laughing and think about how cute they are and maybe start a little bit to feel funny about it. That is also you getting emotional about dancing strawberries. This is just a trivial example to prove a point. Whatever you focus on, you will become emotional about. And there's no secret to what happens when we start getting emotional. It turns into like a very strong train, if you will. And you have to decide whether you want to board that train. You have to decide whether you want to be on that ride. Because when we get emotional, chemicals fire off in the body, and they're very, very powerful, and they put the body into state. So if you're thinking negative, depressing, sad, anger, things like that, then you can expect your body to become sufficiently energized for those thoughts. And once that train gets going, it's really hard to stop. And many, many times in my life, I have noticed that, like, man, I really lost hours there. Sometimes thoughts have hit me so hard that it knocked me out for a couple days because the spiral was really strong. It was like a raw nerve, if you will. And on the other hand, I can totally have it happen where I'm in love with something, an idea, a person, a memory, or maybe I'm going to be going on something like I just rode for autism last weekend. I went from Boston University to Newport, Rhode Island, and I had been looking forward to that since the springtime, and so when I would think about it and I'd watch cycling videos, I'd get all amped up because that's something that I'm passionate about. But knowing that I can only focus on one thing at a time makes it very important for me to choose what thoughts I'm thinking, because I know whatever I think about, I'm going to get emotional about. And the thing is, once I'm emotional about something and my body is moving into action, even if it's like inaction, because we're always producing results, we always produce an effect. That's another way to look at it. If I stay in bed all day because I'm depressed and I put the covers over my head, I get the results of a person that does that. I'm still getting results or effects either way. And if I go out and I work on my business and I talk to people and connect and engage and I keep it positive and I'm adding value, there are effects that are produced from that. But it all stems from what I'm thinking. And so this goes back to our light and our dark. Our light and our dark. So if it's true that thinking negative things is a gateway, if you will, to depressing thoughts and perhaps negative activity, not showing up at your best for work, things like that, why think them? Right, this is the other side of it. And what I have found is that at the heart of everything, I always want to grow and be better. I forgot who said it, there was a quote around that. I got tons of these things. I forget who says what after a while. But there was a quote around this that was like, don't wish things were easier, wish you were better. And I like that, because you can't control everything outside. Sure, by thinking certain things, by operating energetically in a certain kind of a way, being positive and receptive, you can make circumstances welcome in your life. But you can't make specific things happen. You can manifest your perfect man or woman, but you can't say, Brian down the street, 4 houses up, that's going to be my man for the rest of my life. Sorry if you have somebody by that description, I just made it up. But in all seriousness, you can't make things happen. And so being okay with this idea of not wishing things were different, wishing that I was better. Not that I want things to be easier, I want to be better. Puts the control in my life. So when we start thinking about the dark side, the negative side, in terms of equinox, right? Light and dark. How do we use it so that it's advantageous to us? And this is very important. How do we use it so it's advantageous to us? What I have found is this growth mindset makes a big difference, knowing that, again, I don't want things to be easier, I want to be better, because things will be easier, right? Like another quote is that if you're willing to do what's hard, life will be easy, and if you're only willing to do what's easy, life will be hard. So you want to get in the habit of doing the hard thing, because like something cycling taught me that was very interesting. There was a time when a 30-mile ride with a bunch of hills was really intimidating to me, and then it became my new normal, and it wasn't even intimidating. It was just like kind of the warm-up part of my ride after a while, And so it's not like all of this, I want everything to be hard so life will be easy. It's not like it stays hard. It's you get in a mindset of this is just what it feels like to get better, right? It's not, I want my life to be hard and pretend that it's going to actually make it easier. It's not some intimidating thing. It really is realizing that when you start out in a new direction, everything is new to you. Unless you've done it before and you're coming back with previous knowledge. Everything is new. And so you go at it and everything is new. So there's a lot of learning, there's like a lot of over processing. Like I started playing volleyball recently, and 20 years ago when I was in grade school, maybe 20 years ago, I don't know, how old am I? Anyways, I was kind of good. I just had natural ability at volleyball, and now I'm playing with this group of people on a beautiful lake, and I find that I have to over process a lot. Like my body just can't completely act naturally. And I know about these mindset things, and I know the processes that happen when we engage in a new activity, so I see it just for that. But each week that goes by, I take that knowledge from the previous sessions with me, and I get better. And so in a way, those previous sessions were kind of like doing the hard thing. But I knew that if I stick with it, that it's just going to be a little bit competitive, but mostly enjoyment. Just something I enjoy doing. I love volleyball. I think it's just so much fun. Right? Guitar. Learning new songs with new chords. Another example. It's always frustrating in the beginning because your fingers just don't want to do what you want them to do. Right? If you're going to learn how to, I don't know, deal in a certain kind of illustration medium. So you're going to go into painting or pastels and charcoals, which are kind of messy. You know, there is a learning curve, but then the learning curve doesn't get as steep or doesn't stay as steep after a while. This is the light and the dark. And that's why you could also look at illumination, right? Darkness is not knowing. Lightness is knowing. There's so many ways to really look at this light-dark scenario, equinox, in beneficial ways. One of the reasons I love philosophy is there's so many interesting ways to approach something, and yet they all bring you towards enlightenment in different ways. They're all like a piece of the puzzle. Not one of them is more right than all the other ones, you know, and certainly not more wrong, I would say. Even on the good and evil thing, that really works for people. It doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for many, many people that I know for the reason that I stated, but some people swear that that is how you know how to do what the right thing is and how to do what the wrong thing, and not to do what the wrong thing is. So, okay, that works for you. Knowing and not knowing, right? Darkness is not knowing. You can picture it like turning out a light in a place that you've never been at night, right? You kind of like fumble around, you don't know, and then you start kind of learning the lay of the land, and then next thing you know, you can navigate in the dark because you've kind of figured it all out. But when you switch the light on, you know all of this extra information about the objects that are around you. So light and dark is also, in a way, we can look at it that way. And when you're in the beginning of something new that you're trying, and this can even be if you've experienced trauma and things like that, a lot of people, something that I've heard pretty consistently is many trauma victims can't imagine their life without the trauma. They can't imagine themselves having an identity, anything other than, I've been a trauma victim. And that's really scary. And it's very, very difficult to become detached from that sort of identity. And these lessons also apply even to something so significant like that. But it's hard. It's really, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying that there's common ground. That know that when you're looking at whatever situation you've been dealt with in your life that's really hard, know that there is a period of darkness where you're not sure where to go. You're not sure what to do or who to talk to. You're not sure what you should be doing. You're not even sure what goals you should shoot for, because it's like, hell, like I just had this thing happen and it's shaken me up to my core. Everybody with everything new goes through that. There was a time when you didn't know how to walk, but you had all these people around you walking around like it was easy. You said, I want to do that. That looks pretty free to me. I want to do that. So you go through the process. You don't know how to do it. You never walked before. Your legs aren't conditioned for it. Your balance isn't in condition for it. You don't have the awareness, so you're tripping over things when you start. You're getting hurt, right? But you do it. You do it. And moving through the difficulties in our life are much like that. And if you keep the growth mindset around it, you will come out much, much better on the other side. The most significant lessons that I've learned in my life that have made me far more capable of handling the world around me were the hardest lessons. Were the lessons that stopped me dead in my tracks. The people that I really cared about passing away. My mom died when I was 12 of inflammatory breast cancer. Sucks, you know? And these things cause us to stop and think. Cause us to stop and wonder what it's all about. Sometimes we think thoughts of like, okay, well, if I can die tomorrow with some crappy disease, why even try? And the reason is because you don't know that that's the case. So let it not be said that you didn't try. Give me a break. You know, I'm gonna die someday, so I might as well just smoke cigarettes every day. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense at all. If anything, it's really an excuse when you come down to it. Everybody has things that they like to do as an escape. Whether it's cigarettes, whether it's video games, eating. I like to eat. That's mine. I really enjoy eating. But they are escapes. And it's okay to do things, activities, so that your mind doesn't have to think, right? Earlier I was talking about why it's important to have rest and reprieve. Sorry, it took a second. Rest and reprieve. As well as being in action and tearing things down, breaking them down so that they can be built back stronger and better. Right? And in a way, all of this adversity that you're going through, it's kind of like a bonsai tree. You know, we choose how it grows by cutting it and pruning it the way that we want. When you go to the gym, you're breaking down very specific muscles and you're saying, okay, I want you to grow back better and stronger. And you're choosing, based on the exercise plan that you're on, how you want your body to shape up. I did it with cycling. I made very, very decisive actions around getting better in cycling. So as a result, I was able to do something really cool recently. And I earned that. Well, it's the same thing. If you want to get really good at making money, or if you want to get really good at learning how to do work that you love doing in the world, it's gonna be a period of darkness where you're figuring it all out. That darkness is gonna make you afraid. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to stay that way. But you're gonna experience some fear. That's normal. It's part of the growth. And you know what? It makes the victory much more sweet, because you know, you always have people that may be around you that are saying, oh, everything's so easy for you. And you're like, well, where were you when I was sleeping in my car? Where were you when I was, staying up all night when you guys were out partying? That's where you were. Now I remember, right? It makes a victory that much more sweet when it doesn't come free. It's just so easy. There are mindsets around making things seem easy so that you're not overcomplicating them, because your mind can do that. Man, you can terrorize yourself out of doing anything. Your thinking is very powerful. It's very motivating. And of course, the body and the mind are so closely linked. So if you're thinking terrifying thoughts, man, you're not going to move into action. Your body will not move into action. So, coffee with Kane. Light and dark. I talked about a lot of concepts, but really, 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 I want you to understand that it's not complete balance. It's not, because everything is changing all the time. You have good days, you have bad days, like the way that you feel about them at least. You have good days, you have learning days, you could call it that. Call them growth days. Oh, yeah, yesterday was a growth day. The last 7 days were a growth period. I learned a lot, right? But you don't have to be so negative about it. You can kind of laugh and just realize, hey, I'm on a journey. And, things are going really, really easy for a while. So, of course, I had the opposite to come in and stop me and make me think, right? So there's ways that you can totally handle this, that you can experience your light and your dark. And as we go through these next several months of more darkness, at least outside, than light, I would invite you to take what I said into consideration. Maybe watch it a few times. Take what I said into consideration and really think man, what do I want to do with all that light next year? In 2022, what goals would I like to be in the middle of working towards? What lessons do I need to learn? What is the darkness trying to teach me right now? Where could I use a little bit of illumination? And then go get it. Go get that illumination. Either through experience, through action, because you've read everything. You don't need to read anymore on whatever it is that you're refraining from taking action on. You need to just do it. You just need to take action and get experiential learning. Or on the opposite side, start watching YouTube videos. Start reading books. Start learning how other people have come out on the other side of the problem that you're facing. That's a huge one for me. Modeling is something very real that we all do. We look to people that have been successful in a way that we admire, and we model our behavior after them. And then we learn how to do whatever it is that we want to do. You know, and if that's what you need to do right now, like for example, let's say that you want to have a marriage that lasts the rest of your life. Find people that have been married, that have a relationship you would like to enjoy, and talk to them. How'd you do it? What's it like? What's it like when it's hard? Right? You can ask these questions. They'll talk to you. Same thing if you want to be a millionaire. Okay? Right now, you obviously don't know how to. Okay? That's all right. Because if you knew, you'd have done it already. Go find them. They're posting stuff everywhere, all over Instagram. Like my Facebook and my Instagram feeds are cluttered with this stuff. Manifesting this, that, and the third. People love to share knowledge. And it ain't going to cost you $1 million. Probably cost you something. Everything has a price. And that's okay, because it's valuable information. You want to learn how to make more money? There's people everywhere offering so many different ways to do it. So many ways. It doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't have to be selling things on Amazon or having like another virtual store. It doesn't mean that you have to, own a restaurant. It doesn't mean that you have to do any of those things. There are people that are athletic coaches making millions of dollars right now. There are people acting making millions of dollars right now. There are accountants making tons of money right now. Possibly millions of dollars. I don't know. I'm sure that they exist. But really, going into this period of more dark than light, introspection. What are the areas of your life that you want to shed a light on? Thank you very much. This has been a lot of fun for me to make, and I really, really enjoy these talks. So thank you very much, and until the next time we enjoy coffee together, take care.